Okay, hello everybody. This video is going to be about protesting Scientology, the history of. I watch not a lot because there's hours and hours of these videos of current auditors slash protesters out there. Um, and it seems to me there's not a lot of knowledge of the history of protesting Scientology. At least that's my perspective. And I looked around and there's really not a lot out there about the history of protesting Scientology. So I thought I'd make this hopefully quick video to talk about that. First off, this is just what I've gathered. I started protesting in 1995 and have somewhat off and on since then protested. I protested with Anonymous and I protested in Clearwater at the Lisa McPherson Trust, and I protested in Los Angeles a lot, San Francisco, Atlanta, all kind of several places anyway. So with that background, I'll just go ahead here. Now, this is my perspective, like I say, and I'm an American, so I'm going to probably skip or miss some things that have happened in other countries. And I'm probably going to miss things because I don't know about them. So forgive me for all that. But this is just sort of a quick history of protesting Scientology. Scientology started, let's say, with Dianetics in 1950. They've had critics since then. Dr. Winters was one of the first promoters of Dianetics, and he bailed out and became a public critic of Dianetics. And then Scientology started in the 50s, sometimes we'll say. And there's been critics, ex-members coming out and critics um, from different fields, from psychiatry, from medicine, medical field, and all kinds of places. So there's always been critics protesting. Earliest I can find is 1974, what I would call a protest. So we'll start from there. Now, in throughout the history, though, there's been, I think, four major times when there's been protests, concentrated protests, we can call them, where there's more people and the protests last longer. Um, that would be Clearwater, 1979, 1980, around then, when Save Sparkling Clearwater was going on. Scientology snuck into Clearwater, Florida, buying property under an assumed name, and then they pretended not to be Scientology. Uh, but when that was discovered, it just kind of went downhill from there in Clearwater. And the locals just started protests to get the Scientology out of the community. That was 1979, 1980. Mayor Gabe Cazares and others started that. Another time when there was several protests of multiple people was when the internet formed, 1995. We started based on Alt Religion Scientology was a news group where we started organizing. And first we organized just whoever wanted to pick it in your local community. First one was in March of 95. But then we decided to go annual protests in Clearwater, Florida. So we had six of those. Um, so we would all not just be in our separate places, but concentrate on one location. So I'll talk about that. Third time of concentrated protesting was anonymous, of course, which I consider the epitome of protesting Scientology. I think they did it best. They were the smartest and accomplished, I believe, quite a bit. And Anonymous is a huge story all by itself. All of these are really. And I'm just trying to kind of skim through the history, the complete history of protesting Scientology in this video. So I'm not going to be too deep into any of these. The fourth one is currently going on with these people. don't even call themselves protesters. Well, some do, but they call it auditing, which is different from protesting. In auditing, you are just going to a location to see if anybody does something wrong, kind of, you know. So it's different from protesting. It's kind of a mix between auditing and protesting, though. Um, but anyway, that's started in 2023 and is currently going on. A lot of YouTube content providers are these auditors right now, and some ex-members too, ex-Scientologists. So let's get into the history. The first one I know about is in Madeira, which I think is in Portugal, 1974. L. Ron Hubbard was on a ship at the time called the Apollo, traveling the high seas because he was afraid he's going to get arrested. Um, and they show up in 1974 in Madeira, uh, come on shore, have some music and different things going on. But also, what they were doing on the Apollo is not pretending, but kind of being very secretive about what they were about. And locals got the clue that maybe this is a CIA operation, uh, which would have been the opposite of the goal of trying to be secretive, is because you don't want uh, people snooping at you. But anyway, for whatever reason, the locals got pissed off at him and went down the shore and started what I wouldn't call it a riot. I would call it more of a physical protest or something. But they like threw rocks at the ship and uh, threw, I think, Hubbard's motorcycle and somebody else's car into the bay, and it was kind of a big mess. So finally, the Apollo had to sail away to kinder shores. So that's as far as I can think and remember. That's the first, what I would call a protest against Scientology, um, which could say succeeded because they left. 'Another one, 1976, a friend of mine, Ida Camburn and Henrietta Crampton, I think her name was protesting in LA. They were in the Los Angeles Times about that. That was 1976. I think it's a March. Oh, I'll put it up here. Uh, the LA Times article that mentions them. 1979 is the first big protest, as I was saying. That was in Clearwater. Gabe Cazares was the mayor at the time. Several community people formed Save Sparkling Clearwater, which was to try to uh, probably try to get Scientology to leave, really, because they were crazy. They did really weird things there. And as I say, they snuck into town in the first place. So everybody's pissed off at them. That went on for about a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. Next one I could think of is well, just this is just one guy, but Captain Bill Franks was actually the essentially the head of Scientology until he got kicked out by Hubbard. Well, an intrigue. Let's call it an intrigue. And he, according to what I heard, about 1982, I think it was, picketed in front of the Flag Building where he had been the boss. But he was kind of pissed off and just kind of whining about being kicked off, I think. That was a protest anyway. 1985, an interesting case. Uh, Frank Notero was an ex-Scientologist, and he picketed in front of the Big Blue building in LA. I think mostly because he was pissed off and he wanted his money back. Um, and he had a sign about Xenu. I think he says Xenu is God or Xenu is dumb, or I forget. Anyway, Xenu comes from the upper level teachings of Scientology, which is otherwise secret. But anyway, he had a picket sign about Xenu. And okay, he's on his own picketing in front of flag, 1979. Very bold of him, let's say, to do. And he asked a friend to keep an eye on him while he's picketing. So while he's picketing, here come the security guys, drag him into the Big Blue building, and they sort of tortured him. I think they tased him or something. Why? Because he's protesting. That's why. Uh, so there's a little clip of that I'll put in here.
Ex-Scientologist Frank Notaro used the name Xenu in a demonstration outside a church building and got beaten up. Why is it so secret?
Because Ron says that if people find out about this information, that they will get sick and die if they find out this information without paying the money.
Well, did anybody who read your T-shirt get sick or die?
The only person who got sick was me because I got beat up. Stun gun. So, well, I just want people to find out about what's been going on and what the church is really all about.
Next would be 1986, a group called FAIR, which is a bunch of ex-Scientologists or people who maybe still practice Scientology but were against the organization. They sued as a group, the church, civilly, and they would protest from time to time. I think I have a picture of that, but I'll try and put that up. And also I'll have links to this stuff on the bottom of my page here too. So after that, they didn't pick it very long. I think maybe just like a month or something like that. So I wouldn't count them as a big event or timeline. In 1988, a family in Ohio protested for a refund. 1994, I believe, I think this is right. Wayne Whitney was an ex-member, a very quiet, kind of nice guy. He picketed a lot in San Francisco, and I think he went down to LA and picketed too. I picketed with him once in San Francisco. So he was pretty consistent, and then he died from a disease. 1995, okay, the internet, 1994 was about the year that the internet opened up pretty much for the public to use. 1995, Alt Religion Scientology was a news group that was pretty happening when I got on in 95. I think January. That was a freewheeling place. It's just the way it worked was it's just text, and one person would type something and press enter, and that would show up on Alt Religion Scientology. We call it ARS. And then the next person, time-wise, would post something, and then that would show up, and that's the way it would go. It's just fed like that, and there's no filter whatsoever. There's nobody watching who's saying what or anything. It's just you type it, there it is. And it kind of it goes away at the end of your screen. There's no, I think some people save some of it, but a lot of it is gone. A guy named Rod Keller had started making Alt Religion Scientology Weekend Review, and I believe that's still online somewhere if you wanted to look at that old time stuff. A lot of stuff was going on ARS because Scientology was attacking it, of course. So they would do crazy things like Helena Cobran was one of their attorneys. She sent out an RM group, which is a command on the internet saying remove this group, RM group ARS. So they were, but fortunately, the people who run back in the background, the little segments of the internet, just ignored her. And they did all kinds of things that tried to just drown us out by posting more things than we were doing. They had a cancel poodle or cancel moose who would come and try using different commands. He was a hacker basically to delete some of our stuff. And some of the things that were on there was the secret Scientology material, the OT levels and things like that. So Scientology was really pissed off at ARS. And all of this attempt to silence, to shut down ARS got the attention of everybody else on the internet, because if you can close down a news group that you don't like, then there's no more free speech on the internet. So, for example, Microsoft could close down a news group that they don't like because they're complainers on this news group, so that's how it could go. So the internet would be essentially dead of free speech. That pissed off a lot of people on the internet who had no care or concern about Scientology, or maybe even knowledge of Scientology, but they wanted free speech on the internet. And Scientology was against free speech, at least on ARS. So that got more people onto our news group. And we started thinking, why don't we protest? Go out and picket with signs and march in front of their buildings and stuff. So we started to do that. I think March 12th, 1995 was the first one in Mesa. I can't remember if other people did it on that day too, but we did it on March 12th, 1995 in Mesa, Arizona. I think there was 5 of us. And like once a month or something after that, we would go out and picket there. I think we maxed out at 7 people, so it's not a big deal, but we had big SP on our backs because we were suppressive persons, according to Scientology. Now that after we were doing that a while, and other people protested in other cities, we got to thinking, why don't we picket in one location, like make an annual event out of it? So we decided on Clearwater because that's the international headquarters of Scientology. And because we figured Clearwater, with their history of already knowing about Scientology and everything, would be more welcoming to critics, to us protesting. So we did that. We started, what was that? The first protest there was 1996, March of 1996. Oh, we had a September of 95. Yeah, we had international protest on ARS, and we had about 15 different cities around the world. So I think personally, this was the first international event organized on the internet. Actually, I mean, you can prove me wrong, but I believe that's true. So these 15 different cities, and we wound up being like 200 people, around the world protesting. So not a big thing, but again, it's a step. It's one of the first things that we did. So back to the Clearwater, March of 96, there's about 16 of us, I think, protested there. We had press conference and different things to try to get information out to the local public. And then we videoed, and some of those videos are still online. Back then, you didn't have as much video. There's no YouTube. It's totally different back then. And to have a phone, a cell phone, you needed to rent it, which was so much per minute. It was pretty expensive. So these protests were kind of expensive to do, actually. But anyway, so I'll tell you the 6 times we did that in Clearwater, 6 annual times. March 96, March 97. After that, we heard about Lisa McPherson. So we switched from L. Ron Hubbard's birthday to more remembering Lisa McPherson. And that was so 1297, 1298, 1299, and 2000 was the last of those organized on the internet protests. Now, 2000, what comes along is the Lisa McPherson Trust, which is stationed in Clearwater, right next to Scientology building, in fact. And we, meaning Bob Minton was the founder of the Lisa McPherson Trust, and me and several other people liked picketing. We liked protesting, and we're right there, so why not? So we would protest quite a bit out there, just on our own whenever we felt like it. That was just kind of random, but I mentioned that as one of the major ones because, well, maybe it isn't one of the major ones, but we did it a lot, just kind of random though, whenever we felt like going out. And there weren't all that many of us. Sometimes there's up to 10 of us, I think, at the most. But there's also videos about that, which I'll connect to here.
Out of here! Back to the boat, stop your dog! Back to the boat, you're on the boat! Back to the boat, you're not the dog! Back to the boat, you're not the dog! Back to the boat, you're not the dog! Watch out! Hey! Who's that?
So Lisa McPherson Trust. After that, there wasn't a lot going on, I don't think. There's always been, and so I'm just hitting high points. Of course, this is not every protest around the world or anything like that, but I'm just trying to show you that there's been a lot of different protests, and these are the major. I'm kind of trying to hit the major ones and representative ones. So next is Sean Lonsdale. He was a guy, an ex-member in Clearwater, and he did sort of like the beginnings of auditing in a way. I mean, he would go out with signs sometimes, but other times he would just be out videoing, recording what's going on. So that's sort of like what the auditors are doing now. But he was doing that for months, I think, until he quit. Uh, 2001, 2008. Otherwise, there's not much going on. We protested in Los Angeles sometimes. We'd have up to like 25 people, which is pretty good, but it was just once a year or something like that. (2008) is when Anonymous starts. That's I'm not going to go through the history of that, but there's a lot of information about Anonymous online because by now everybody has their own cameras, everybody's connected on the internet much better. So it's much different and much easier to go back and see what Anonymous was doing. Just by looking at YouTube and different websites and stuff. So Anonymous comes along 2008, and they have generally weekly. It's decentralized totally. So it's just like they talk amongst themselves online and say, well, hey, how about Phoenix? Why don't we protest on this day? And everybody goes, nah, excuse me, that's a bad day. Let's pick another day. So they'd argue and pick a day and then go out and protest. It might be monthly. Probably monthly was normal throughout the world. But that was throughout the world, Anonymous going on. And I'll show some little clips of that here. Anyway, after that, Anonymous goes from 2008, maybe 2010, and they start just kind of peter out.
Chambly, and I am the Philadelphia coordinator for Anonymous. I'm known as Baconator online, which has caused a little bit of confusion for Scientologists. They actually liken me to the Terminator for some reason, not too sure why. And so far, at least for what's going on behind me here, it looks like it's an epic success. Well, the count that we had when we were over at Ray Street was about 160, and it looks like, based on how many people we picked up along the way, we've probably got 175 to 200 people here right now, which is right in line with what we were shooting for. You know, we believe that you can believe whatever you want, you can practice whatever you want, but the fact that, you know, the fact of the matter is, because, you know, for what the church is doing to its members and to people that come in, and the abuses that it portrays, or that it does, we don't think that's fair, we don't think it's legit, and we think it needs to stop immediately.
2010, 2023, not a lot going on. And my I have a spreadsheet on my website, protestthecult.org, which kind of ends at 2012. I was gathering the information of those protests from websites that died, so I have no access anymore to that information. So unless I can grab those people that had those databases, I can't update it past 2012. So anyway, 2018 in Ireland, for example, there was protests against Narconon, which is a Scientology front group that deals with drug addiction. Then the fourth and the last, and the current protest movement is what I call auditing, which they call auditing. And that is very easy to find because they're almost all YouTube creators on other channel outlets as well, which I'm really only on YouTube though, so I don't see that stuff. I have differences of opinion whether the way they do things is good. And again, I think Anonymous is the best. If you want to see how to protest it, Scientology, Anonymous is the best. Auditing, I don't think is too good, but that's for another video, which I kind of already made some of those videos about that. Finally, I just wrote down two people who also were protesting, but I didn't figure out the years or too much about what they did. Keith Henson picketed out at Gold Base in Hemet, California. That's their secret headquarters, you could call it. For about a month straight, daily. He was out there daily until they kind of got at him, and he fled to Canada. It was a big mess. A whole bunch of weird stuff happened. Also, Nan McLean was in Canada, Ontario. She was an ex-member from the 1970s, and she picketed sometimes, but I have no, I know she picketed, but I don't know the history of how much protesting she did. She did a lot of stuff in court, a lot of stuff helping individuals, and some protesting that I don't have the history of that. So in general, that's basic history of Scientology protests. There's also Scientology itself protested, and I think I'll probably make a video of that as well. So that's about it for this. I hope it was helpful. And if you have any additions, obviously, I'm sure I missed things, you know, but you can add them in the comments here. And maybe I'll make a follow-up if there's a lot of bad misses I'd made. So thanks very much.
From the Sandcastle Hotel, has been here yesterday and today also. Pretty cool. Notice how close they are, tight they are to the deal. The sandcastle's right there is the sandcastle. And notice this van, and all the trees and everything to hide us, and the broken sidewalk. There's going to be a coachman park right there. an event. And this is the sidewalk here. It's all front up all the way and all the way around. And then over here is the and over here is the building where they teach OT levels. And notice all the van. That's all to stop them from seeing us if we pick it over there. Theta van.
Hey, how you doing?
There's Tillman over there. Sandcastle Hotel there. Sidewalk. Temple bus. Notice how close they are to the van here. The lovely Gypsy Bird. Yeah, we're on his Xenu sign.
They didn't have Pepsi water
An alien.
place we went to, so I got Diet Pepsi. Is that okay? That's fine.
And then notice how close that one
I
is
actually
too.
drink both. Okay. It's like
Not much room in here, but it's fun.
Got it. Depending on the meal, I have one.